Hey, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to the Suzanne and Sarah YouTube channel. We're licensed realtors in Central Oregon. We serve buyers, we serve sellers, and investors all across the state and in our community and network beyond. So, if you're thinking about a move, an investment, or you just want to know what life actually looks like here in Central Oregon, you are in the right place. Let's get to it. When most people decide they want to move to Bend, it's usually after some kind of visit and they start Googling moving to Bend and they get lists of trails and breweries. And yeah, that's cute. And that's what SEO does here in Central Oregon. A lot of people are really into it. But I want to make sure that you know the nitty gritty, that you understand what life here really actually looks and feels like. And that's my whole goal and mission with this information in this channel and why you're watching this video, hopefully. I want you to know what traffic on Highway 97 feels like at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. I want you to understand the housing sticker shock and why some people leave and then move back 18 months later. My goal is to tell you all of it because you deserve to know and you deserve to get the real version before you actually buy. I like to say try before you buy. Some of the stuff that people love here and what draws almost everyone here is the outdoors, access to nature. It's not a joke. It's the real deal here in Central Oregon. It's right outside of your back door. It's 15 minutes, it's 30 minutes, it's an hour to do a lifetime of adventures. This is the kind of place that people move to because they want to spend every single day outside. We here in Bend have the Deschutes River Trail, which is a trail that runs along the river, north to south, for miles and miles. We've got Phil's Trail, which is so great for mountain biking right outside your back door, all levels. We've got Mount Bachelor, which is an epic skiing and snowboarding mountain for the winter, and then has some pretty gnarly and amazing downhill mountain biking in the summer. There are endless trails. I'm telling you, you could do something new every single day for the rest of your life, seriously. We have Smith Rock, which is just a 30-minute drive from Bend north out towards Redmond. And it's one of those places that's you are in awe when you see it for the first time. And it's personally one of the places that made me fall in love with Central Oregon time and time again. Here in Central Oregon, I always say it's the perfect size city. It's the kind of community where you still run into people that you know by accident, but it's big enough to stay away from people that maybe you don't want to run into. It's a human-sized community. It's a place where reputation matters and being a good person matters, but it doesn't feel too overwhelming. But at the same time, you have access to all of those amenities of any modern city, and they're constantly turning over and getting better. I have plenty of clients who move here from the East Coast, and one of the things that they always point out about when they first move here is just how nice everyone is. And then depending on where your kid goes to school, schools have real culture. My kids personally are in a smaller community school. Everyone knows each other, but even in a little bit bigger schools, people are involved. They know each other's names. So quality of life here is definitely real. We have farmers markets year round to a degree in certain spots, but when they're in the winter, it's more of a mix and they move inside and it's more of a resale situation. But things grow fast and furious here. It's definitely not the greatest growing environment for produce, but there's definitely ranch culture here. And then Oregon in general, when I first moved to Oregon 20 plus years ago, I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I walk into this grocery store and I'm buying locally made products on accident. We're just a maker state. We're a very DIY ag forward state. If you're a food and local culture lover, this is a great area and state for you to live in. Beyond that, think I already mentioned it. We love our beer. We love our breweries. One reason Central Oregon makes such good beer is that we have amazing water. We have amazing water right out of the tap. And I think it's something that people take for granted until they leave for a certain amount of time and they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't wait to fill my glass with, or my water bottle with water from our tap versus drinking someone else's water or having to opt for bottled water out of plastic over and over again. Another great thing about Oregon is there's no sales tax. Again, that's something you forget until you travel. Yeah, like I said, outdoor everything is really the name of the game here. And the greatest thing I would say most people have in common when they move here and are getting to know new people. That was the good stuff. Now we're going to talk about some of the things that nobody warns you about, or very few people like to talk about. And while I like to think that we've got really great and intentional city planning, I know we do. If you visit here, you'll see how clean, how organized, how proactive the city is about development and public spaces. This was once a small town and has gotten much bigger over the past 10, 15 years. And we aren't built with giant highways. So we really do have north to south one main drag, and it's called Highway 97. It really is the only corridor. And I'm not going to say it's gridlock traffic, but it definitely gets backed up at certain exits at certain times of day. I have some people that move from smaller towns that maybe it bothers, but I would say the majority of the population moving here is from bigger cities where there's more traffic, where there's longer commutes, and they literally don't even blink an eye at it. So it really is all relative, but it's definitely something to take into consideration as part of where you want to live, how you intend to commute, where you work from, all those good things. Then you've probably heard people talk about it recently, and if you know anything about Central Oregon, you've probably heard some rumblings about this, but smoke season is real here. And by this, wildfire season. We are a high desert climate. We are very dry. If you are moving from any kind of humidity or near any type of body of water, it will be a shock and it will take your body a couple of weeks to adapt. When I leave and I come back, or when I first move here, I find myself very thirsty, needing lots of lotion, needing lots of lip chap, balm, and extra moisturizer. But I will say our bodies do adapt. This dry climate being that we have lots of green space all around us, wildfires are a real thing. Again, our state does and our area does a lot to mitigate the risk of wildfires because it's affecting people more and more in lots of different ways. But if you have a particular sensitivity to smoke and you just can't handle it, this might not be the place for you. But I will say having air conditioning in your home used to be a want, and I would say it's becoming more of a need here in Central Oregon, and not because it gets particularly really hot for a long period of time and you can't just function with opening and closing your windows at certain times of day or turning on ceiling fans, whatever, but it does get really uncomfortable if you have a home that does not have air conditioning and you have to keep your doors and windows closed because of smoke, because you don't want it getting into your home. So how this affects us is, I would say, sometimes people have to wear masks outside, which again, strange, being such an outdoor-centric and exercise-centric city, it limits our ability to do that depending on your risk tolerance at that time of year. Some years are really bad and we get a couple weeks of smoke, and some years are not that bad and it's just a couple hours or a couple days. And it really literally is just like how the wind blows, right? If you can have fires as far north as Washington and still have effects from smoke in other areas here. It just has to do with the weather patterns and how close the smoke is. Another issue or thing to consider is winter driving. We are, as I said, in the high desert, and that puts us in Bend at about 3,600 feet of elevation. And certain times of year, certain seasons, ice and snow accumulation are real. And especially if you're someone who wants to take advantage of driving up to the mountain or adventuring and getting into snow sports, you need snow tires. It's another expense to account for, and it's something to plan for, but I would say they're not optional. They actually are part of survival here and part of you getting to do the day-to-day things that you need and want to do. So if you're looking to move from somewhere like California or Texas or the Gulf Coast, this may humble you your first winter, but I recommend just having an all-wheel drive car and or really good snow tires. Cost of living and or in this case really the cost of housing can be startling for some people. We get people who move here whose taste is more expensive than their budget allows. And $600,000 here is about the entry point to new construction for a decent 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. You're looking at about $650,000. You can get resale homes in the $500,000 to $600,000 range, but you're going to expect that they need some updating. They might not check every single one of your boxes. So that's just something that we want to make sure that we account for and are planning for, especially if you have lots of things on your want list that you want to check the box for. Like anywhere else, location is everything, and here you definitely pay for location, especially if you want walkability or kind of to be out in the middle of things without having to drive 10 or 15 minutes to get there. We already talked about altitude a little bit, but what does that mean in practical matters? I think for me, the most effect is on working out, especially when you're used to running at lower elevations or hiking at lower elevations. You need to give yourself a couple weeks to adjust to your body being able to absorb less oxygen. I think for some people this could affect their sleep. I don't have any issues personally with sleep, and altitude has never affected that for me. Or if you're like a really precise baker, people actually have to adjust the amount of time, and I think, I don't know, don't quote me, but how much liquid you put into your certain baked goods. So there's things to account for just by living at elevation. The people who thrive here, like I said, love the outdoors, and it's a crazy place in that you can go out to lunch on a Wednesday and somewhere is just slammed, or you can go out on a Sunday and it's dead, and you don't even get it. So people who thrive here tend to be remote workers, and this is one of those reasons why those people can do what they want when they want in a lot of cases. Remote workers, people who love the outdoors, families who want to raise their families in nature with good schools. Our public school system here, it really, I don't know, can be beat like in terms of just density of good schools within one city. People are always asking me what's the best schools, but you really can't go wrong here in so many facets. Sure, there are schools that are rated better. Sure, there are places where maybe you and your personality type are going to mesh better with the demographic in that particular school area, but I can't answer that question necessarily without knowing more just about you personally and what your preferences are and what your budget is. And if you're focused on a particular location to live, then I can help you talk about schools a little bit more. Also, people who are driven by community, it's definitely can be hard to build community here at first, but it really is, it's everywhere, and there are hundreds of meetup groups, and you just have to look in the right places and put yourself out there. But a lot of people here are really into exercise, wellness, recovery, things like that. I think you just have to make sure that you align in that way if you're seeking community. I would say one of the bigger struggles here is dining variety and nightlife. Downtown here is pretty sleepy and things close down pretty early in the night. You're hard pressed to find too many places open past 9 p.m. So don't get the late night munchies and expect anything great. And we've got good restaurants, but not a lot of fine dining here. I will say it's starting to get better as our city grows. It can support a more diverse range of restaurants, and they're coming, but it's a tough industry and it takes time. So while people, I would say, appreciate food here, it's not a foodie town necessarily. Ultimately, what I hope you have learned from this video is that Bend is not for everyone. And I think that's actually a feature here and not necessarily a flaw. The people who end up here visit, they feel the connection, they feel the magnetism, they can't stop thinking about it, and they know this is their place, and they know it with conviction, and they know it pretty soon. And if there's any doubt, I encourage you to listen to that. But in the meantime, I hope that if you are here as a visitor or considering moving to Central Oregon, that you reach out and you give me the chance to get to know you as a person and help you define your vision here, ask good questions, and help lead the way, both as an advisor and ultimately a friend and someone who cares about your future and your big goals and really is passionate about sharing what the city has to offer and knows that there's enough to go around. I have had clients come to me saying, Sarah, I'm not sure that I can afford to live here, that I can find a home, and I help them change their mindset and their words, and then I actually help them get it done. So if you're seriously considering a move, we do have a free Moving to Bend checklist, and it covers neighborhoods and schools and trails and most of the things that people forget to think about. So other than that, please follow up with us. Our information is everywhere. There's a link to schedule a free meeting with us, a video meeting online, and we help people figure this stuff out every single week, and we love what we do, and we love getting to know you in the process. Thanks for watching this video, and we look forward to helping you in your journey, getting to know Bend and making Bend your home in the future.